Hi, I'm Dave Koch. I am a professional architectural and commercial photographer, and I am here today to talk to you about your photography for your Airbnb. And this one's going to be kind of a weird episode because part of this is going to be me talking you out of hiring me to come shoot your Airbnb. I think we touched on earlier how there are different doctors. There's brain surgeons, and you don't go to a brain surgeon for a root canal. I think that's pretty obvious. I do think it's super important that you hire a professional to do a professional job, but just because somebody's a professional doesn't mean that they're the best suited to do the job that you want them to do. And Airbnbs are no different. They are no exception. I am a luxury level photographer. I come from a perspective of shooting very high end homes and Airbnb rentals, places that rent for thousands of dollars per night. And my perspective is based on that. And that not only may be, but that's probably not your Airbnb. And that's fine. And I still think, number one, you can learn a lot from this, even though this is a perspective based on very high level photography. But I also think you want to present your property at the highest level that you possibly can. And that if you do anything less than that, you're cutting yourself short. There are many different levels of Airbnbs. There are, people who rent out a room in their basement. I am definitely not the photographer for that. So there are multiple levels of Airbnb, and I realize that. You do not have the same selling strategy for a $200 a night rental and a $1,000 a night rental. And you probably shouldn't have the same photographic strategy for those two different types of Airbnbs. I think a lot of the lower level Airbnb properties, those that sell in the, 50, 80, $100 a night area, a lot of times they'll start off with a real estate photographer because that's the easiest sort of photographer you can get. It's, if you search Airbnb photographer, you're probably going to end up finding real estate photographers. And not being someone who's well-versed and experienced in this, you may think that's fine. The problem, if this is a problem for you, and it may not be, but the problem that you may find is you're going to get real estate level results. You're going to get rooms that are shot from the four corners, and that's it. You're not going to get mood shots. You're not going to get, if you eat sushi, you know that you eat ginger to cleanse the palate. And I like to shoot pictures that do that cleanse the palate from one room to the next, transitionary pictures, things like that. You're not going to get those when you hire an MLS photographer. You're also not going to be paying the rate that you would pay me to do that. And I think that's kind of important for a lot of people. Just know that you're going to get the photography that you pay for. If you're not paying a higher rate than MLS photography, you're not going to get photography that is at a level that's higher than MLS. You're going to get basic photography. You're going to get people who come in and shoot HDR, and that may match the places that you're renting, but you're not going to stand out. You're not going to be different. You're not going to rise above. The reason you hire someone like me is that you've got a substantially better property and you want that to stand out. I think one good way to look at it is, MLS photographers are built for speed. They want in and out in 30 minutes. Someone like me, I'm looking at the emotion of a room, the light of the room, and the feeling of a room. And that's the difference. If that makes sense to you, you want to be paying 2 to 3 times what you would think you would pay for an MLS photographer to get a good Airbnb photographer to come in. You also need to keep in mind that Airbnb is not MLS. You are not selling a home. You are not using pictures for 2 or 3 months and then throwing them away. You're using pictures for 3 to 5 years, and you are selling something and making money from it. And this is entirely different than the MLS perspective, and that's why it's going to be more expensive. You are not buying images. These are not your images. When you pay to have me come in, you don't own those images. I do. I am licensing them to you for 1, 3, or 5 years. And at the end of that, it's a good idea to reshoot, because your property has probably changed. Your outlook may have changed so much. But I like to compare this to, say, iTunes. You get a song on iTunes, you can play that in your own ear all you want. But if you're making a movie and you try and use that $1.25 song that you licensed on iTunes to be the soundtrack of your movie, you're going to get sued pretty darn quick, because it's a different license. And it's the same for Airbnb. You pay more because you get more. You get a longer term, you get higher quality, and you have a commercial use. So that's just so that you know why you're paying more for it. What do I bring that an MLS photographer does not? A tilt shift lens. And that may mean nothing to you, but they're very expensive lenses. But they are really important for creating the moods and the looks that I want. I come in, I shoot with lights, I make my own light, I create my environments in your property, and I make them look good. I bring in drones if needed. But most of all, I walk through and I feel what your property is about. And then I spend 2 to 4 hours creating that mood in images. So you get somebody whose total mindset is completely different than a real estate photographer. Again, all you may need is that real estate photographer look. You may be in that market, and that's fine. I'm not the right photographer for you. But when you're trying to make your property stand out, if you want to be different and stand above, you need to hire somebody who looks at this professionally and does this as a profession, not as, I'll do that tomorrow after I finish my job at wherever it is that I work. The bottom line is, I'm not there to show rooms. I'm there to show feelings, emotions, and atmosphere. I'm there to create a mood and to sell your experience. And that's really the difference between somebody who shoots real estate and shoots luxury, and on so many different levels. And if that's making sense to you, then I'm probably the sort of photographer you need. If it's not, you know what? There are other photographers who will do it much less and probably do everything that you need. I hope you learned something. I hope that makes sense. If you have questions, I hope you put them down there in the description or in the questions below, and I will do my best to answer them. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Dave Koch, and may your next shoot be your best shoot.